as we go forward, especially as AI is hitting the ground, is that, if you want to stay viable in your bookkeeping business, you're going to have to make that shift and make your customers understand that they do need you and value you and your thought process that AI can't do for them.
You're listening to The Successful Bookkeeper with your host, Michael Palmer. Listen each week as inspiring guests share their secrets of success to help you increase your confidence, work smarter, and build a business you love. This episode of The Successful Bookkeeper is brought to you by PureBookkeeping.com, the proven system to grow your bookkeeping business.
Welcome back to the Successful Bookkeeper Podcast. I'm your host, Michael Palmer, and today's show is going to be a fantastic one. Our guest is the owner of Positive Statements. She is a pure bookkeeping licensee, a race car driver, and a former pastry chef, Lora Lonesberry. Welcome back to the podcast.
Well, thank you for having me.
It's great to have you. And as we were talking a little bit in the conversation before the show, which was, what have you been doing? You were on almost like 18 months ago, July of 2022. And it seemed like months ago when I saw your name come up to be on the show again. And I thought, we didn't talk that long ago, but it's been 18 months. Lots happens in 18 months. So what's going on with you?
A lot does happen. We restructured the business a little bit, hired some more staff. And during COVID, the largest impact from our business was the clients that we had in retail that was in Vancouver. So that caused us to close our Vancouver location. So this year we are opening it back up again and restructuring ourselves to service clients both on Vancouver Island, BC, and Vancouver City Central.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so that would have been quite something when you have to close offices and then restart. Are you doing things differently? I'd love to know, it's kind of almost like having that retake, right? Not that you'd want to retake like that, but you have a retake okay, we're going to reestablish. What are you doing and what are you thinking that's different?
Well, I know you've heard of the A2A program with Lisa.
Yes.
So we implemented that.
Okay.
And restructured, and we took on the pure workflow systems to help organize the business and track the staff better, or like track what they do, so that anyone can step out and the next person can step in and know exactly where they left off without having to, bug that person. Introducing telephone services that are centralized as far as our number and stuff is concerned, so that staff can work from home seamlessly, and still communicate with each other and communicate with clients, and no one has any idea that they're not actually in the office. So putting those processes in place. And then of course, if your staff are primarily remote, then you also have to add different processes in there as to when the work gets done and how the work gets done and that sort of thing, so that nothing falls through the cracks. So in the last 18 months, we've been totally revamping our systems to make sure that we can account for all that.
Wow, that's very cool. And I'm curious now. Those are big changes, and those are significant changes right from top to bottom. The A2A program was obviously I'd love to know what you got out of that, what you changed, how your thinking changed, and prior to that, was it surprising that you had those changes? Because sometimes people sign up for a program thinking they're going to get one thing out of it, but then that's the whole point of the program, is to alter the way you think, and you come out of it going, wow. But I'd love to get your take on it.
Exactly. One of the things that we were spread out as far as industry was concerned, we did have a lot of construction, but nowhere near the amount that we do now. So now we target. So that was one of the big things is there's quite a few mentoring people that are included in that program that Lisa introduces you to. And the web development person was probably a key aha moment for me. That and having the discussions in the networking meetings that they have on a weekly basis is finding out how many other bookkeepers don't like construction where we love it. So putting those two together just developed a high requirement niche for us. So, which has just dramatically increased our scope for construction and our calling. That, now instead of us searching for them, they're searching for us, which has made a big difference in how we onboard clients, what kind of clients we're looking for, what their structure is, and how we can help them. And for us, it's key to build relationships with them. Like, we're getting them to understand that we're, in the weeds with them, helping them with their business. And a lot of times that gets lost, that people just figure that the bookkeeper's the last to know, they're not part of the team, and that you just hand them their stuff and they plug numbers in boxes. And that's just not how it works. Well, definitely not with us. And I think that as we go forward, especially as AI is hitting the ground, is that, if you want to stay viable in your bookkeeping business, you're going to have to make that shift and make your customers understand that they do need you and value you and your thought process that AI can't do for them.
That's right. It's an interesting one, and I want to dive into that a little bit. And it's just so much going on with AI and conversations around it. And you really nailed the key point, is that the human should celebrate removing some of the things that AI can and do for you and enhance how you operate. But it can only, if used correctly, it can literally level you up to be able to deliver services that they just can't get from an automation or from an artificial intelligence. So pretty exciting times. Now, we've talked a little bit about major shifts for you in the way you go after your market. They're looking for you now, which is a huge benefit from the Accelerate to Advisor program, the way you think about it, the way you attacked it. Pure Workflow being your practice management software, and then Pure Bookkeeping, the systems and process behind all of that. And then that's kind of what you have. That's the new take on going to market. So let's maybe look at this AI. How long have you been looking at it? Give us a little bit of a backstory around your experience with AI.
Well, I think for us, AI has been one of those things that it's always been the nerve-wracking thing that, we use QuickBooks Online pretty exclusively. And it doesn't take a rocket scientist to know that Intuit is gearing towards customers and cutting out the accounting industry, and primarily restructuring their program so that it's more business owner focused. So in order to, and it's a fantastic software. So it's just like you're stuck between a rock and a hard place. So it's like, okay, how am I going to now combat what this major company is doing and show the effectiveness of the accountant and the bookkeeper while using that product? So I think that, one of the key things for us is that we use those systems to make it more efficient for the clients, so that it's, when they look at their books, we do bookkeeping on a weekly basis. So this puts their information at their fingertips, and we use the apps and services so that they can work on their phones and see the data in real time. And that especially for, bakeries or construction that are working on, performance estimates in certain categories. They need to know if they're going over budget. When they purchase that set of plumbing, it's just like, okay, you're maxing out, and it shows them right there in their projects that you're maxing out in the plumbing section. Like, you have to address this right now, not 30 days later. When you drop your box of goodies off, it's too late. You've already gone over budget and you're not making any money anymore. Right. So AI has really helped us to be able to keep an eye on what the customers' businesses are doing and respond back to them to say, hey, we need to have a conversation here. You're falling out of the performance modules. You either need to increase your prices, or you need to start looking for cheaper products, or something. Like, something's going off the rails here and we need to dig into it and address it. And they are so thankful of that. We wouldn't be able to do those services if we didn't have the AI to help us. But on the same token, if you don't go that step beyond, the AI is going to replace you.
That's right. It's kind of like if you allow it, there is like a level of answer, right? AI is going to do a job to a certain level, and you have to go above that level, and
Yeah.
and that bar is going to change continually for the rest of time, and also the rate of change in the business world and the world in general is changing as well. And you kind of highlighted that. I mean, before, prices, things going on, external, global markets and economies, if we jump back 30 years, the impact that the global economy had on local economies was very low, right? It wasn't nearly the impact. Today, things move so much more quickly to a local bakery, right? The price of, if there's a hurricane in Central South America or something, that could impact your prices on your product, on the stuff that you're selling, the parts and pieces that you need to fulfill on your job. That impacts them today. And so it's someone being the shepherd of those finances, using all of the tools and explaining and giving the information to the business owner to say, this is what you need to look at. That's the piece that AI can help you with, but the human being able to look at and identify and present information and help advocate, because that's what you're doing. You're advocating for change in their businesses. That's key and valuable.
Yes, absolutely.
And so how does one keep up with all of this? Like, you're leveraging in your business through QuickBooks Online. Is there other ways you're leveraging it? But if you were going to give advice to someone to, hey, yeah, I haven't been paying attention to it, or it is causing me fear. How does someone start to change that to, let's embrace this, let's learn about it, let's leverage it?
I think that you have to really embrace yourself into the networking groups for bookkeepers. There's a lot of really good Facebook groups, and it's like you have to find the time. And I know that we all say it, and I can be guilty of it too, is that I just don't have time to do that. And it's like, no, you need to find the time. You need to immerse yourself in this industry's world, because there's, as soon as something goes sideways with QuickBooks, you go on Facebook and 100 people have already made a comment about it, and you're like, okay, perfect. It's not just me. If you have a problem, you put it in the forums, you put it in the Facebook groups, and you get immediate feedback from people who have been in this industry for so long. I think as far as apps and stuff is concerned, you really got to get to know Kelly Parks.
Mm-hmm.
She is active in a lot of these groups, and that's her niche. Is introducing people to and exploring different types of apps that you can be using with your business. So depending on what industry you are in, there are other people that have a niche in that as well. So getting to know them and talking to them and getting comfortable with those conversations will allow you to embrace the tech that goes along with those industries. And I think if you can make your practice as efficient as you possibly can, then that frees up the time to spend the time with your customers. And it's just like, right now with AI climbing so fast, is that human touch with the client and with the accountants is key. to your survival. It's if you pay attention and develop relationships with the accountant on why the tax pattern is happening, what benefits do they need for this client, what is your tax preparation plan for the next 2 to 5 years, how can we help you on the ground developing that plan, how can we communicate that with the business owner, how can we track it, and then contacting the business owner and having those discussions with them saying, okay, well, we're going to do this and this because you remember that last tax season, we talked to the accountant about getting to these markers. So in order to get to these markers, we're going to need to do these 3 steps. And then they're like, oh yeah, right. Because a lot of times they just sign their tax package, walk out the door, and 15 minutes later, they totally forgot, right? So if you can be there helping them implement this stuff, then you remembering and them relying on you to remember is going to be that touch point that they need. And then they can concentrate on their business and making money. And you're doing the admin in the back. There's your value right there. That's solidifying that, no, I need to stay with my bookkeeper because they're looking out for me. I can't just do this admin stuff myself and cut them out. I need them for, these various reasons.
Yeah, and you really attach yourself to the success and the failure as well. But I would say that it's unlikely that you'd be attached to the failure ever, because if you have complete clarity of the finances and you're advising them and you're working with them as you're saying, right? It's like, here's the plan. This is where we're going. Here are the milestones. This is what you need to do in order to change these numbers and make these numbers move. Well, along the way, if they do all the things, right, the business will be successful. If they don't, right, or there's unforeseen external impacts that they have no control of, those will be very clear. And so your clarity of both success and failure are there. And so you're attached to, like, what would I've done without this person?
Exactly. And it's like, and I always joke with my clients that, coming to a bookkeeper is like walking naked down the street. Is that the numbers tell the story. You can tell me whatever you like. The numbers are going to tell you what's actually going on, right? And a good majority of the time, they're very good in doing their business, but they're not good at translating the language, because the numbers is a language and you need someone that can interpretate that. So, and that's what your bookkeeper and your accountant's going to do. So if you have a good relationship with the accountant and, you're paying attention to what the books are doing and you're watching, profit and loss reports and performance formulas and that kind of stuff, then you can now translate that to the client and say, this is where things are going sideways, and pick up on it as it happens instead of not seeing it and, and just going back to them at the end of the month and saying, oh, well, you have a 12% loss this month. Full stop. That's all you say. Well, that's not helping them any, right? So if you can tell them where and find out what areas are they overspending, is it the cost of goods sold? Do we have to change our pricing module? Do we have to do some marketing? Are they marketing the wrong thing? I think that that's really key sometimes, is that business owners will automatically assume that this is a really great product. It sells really well. Yeah, that's nice. But the profit margin on that is only, 15%, where you have this other item over here, which could be gutters for a window and gutter cleaning install company. They don't realize what the profit margin is on the gutters. And it's like, because it's window cleaning and roof cleaning and stuff, they're like, oh, well, we make really good money on that. Well, you make way more money on the gutters. So why don't you start advertising the gutters? Because if you sell 5 of those in the next 6 months, you're going to increase your profit margin by 33%. They don't know that, right? They just see that they always get calls for windows. So that's all they're selling is windows. Well, it's like the service rate on the windows is next to nothing, right? So no, this is what we need to advertise. Leave that because it's in your name. It will sell itself. But that's the kind of advisory stuff that you need to start being able to do with your customers, because you're reading the information. You know, simple things like construction is really bad for staff going out and putting lunch on the company card, right? And it's just like, as bookkeepers, we see that coming in. We see whose card's doing the spending. You know, reporting that back, instead of just saying it's none of my business, someone probably told them they could do it. Don't make that assumption that that's been okay. Go to the business owner during your monthly meeting. Hopefully you're having a monthly meeting, and let them know that this is what's going on. And are you aware of it? Did you know your meals and entertainment has gone up by 16%? We need to get that back down again. That kind of stuff. And it's like, it's those key things. They're just worried about, you know, getting new clients and new jobs. They're not paying attention to how much is getting spent on fuel, or, you know, if your fuel went up, whose card's it going up? Okay, well, did you realize that so-and-so's probably putting a tank of gas in his car? Right? So, but those are the things that we can see from the numbers if we're paying attention to them.
If only we were paying attention. Amazing. You know, it really is. There's, having seen both sides of it, someone who's working with, I've worked with a profit first. Our business runs off profit first professionals, and the difference is so dramatic. And those are kind of the things, that these little granular things that seem small, but when you look at them and someone else has put their eyes on it, and you've got all the models going, and and you look, and it's like, wow. It's like, how would any business owner be able to figure that out? And those are the little things that take them down. You know,
Exactly.
it's the extra tank of gas. Well, that's preventing the company from having the resources to go to the next level. So the long-term implications of these little tiny things are massive in the long run. And so most don't have someone like you and like the other great people that do this work who really lean into it. I mean, Accelerate to Advisor, you know, having systems and process with pure bookkeeping, and then doing something like Profit First, where you have this ability to really show a business owner the pathway to the success that they want to get from their business. It's life-changing. And then and I think the value of that still in the marketplace is completely untapped, because the value of it is so huge in the long run. Like these little, like as I've said, these little things. Well, what if you do these things for 1 year, 2 year, when you've not been doing any of it? What does that impact have on the business? It could make that business multiple millions. That's worth something, right?
Oh,
so
absolutely. Yep.
Pretty exciting for those that do the work. And I think it's those that don't that miss out on these opportunities. And that's really the shift. That's where it's going. It's the whole point of the Accelerate to Advisor program. It's what Lisa figured out for herself. It's like, that's where you have long-term devoted customers, and you're able to really move, because this community loves what they do, right? Loves helping people, loves helping. They're great. They have direct conversations and relationships with business owners. It's very different than accountants, right? Very different relationship. It's on the ground, it's boots on the ground, working with them, power position, but leveling up that relationship and increasing the value conversation leads to, you know, our community of bookkeepers to get what's due to them in terms of the value, in terms of the money that comes back to them for the work that they do.
Exactly. And I think that people have to look at the different shift that, you know, if they think that they don't have time, and it's like, well, okay, if you look at it as you're investing your time in that business, and it's so key that if you're part of their success to make them grow, then that means you're going to grow too, because now their services are growing. They're going to have more staff, which means you're going to take on payroll. So now you're going to have, you know, billable hours and staff taking on that service, which was an add-on to what they had originally when you first took them on as a client. If you're scaling them based on transactions, even if you're flat fee, your flat fee is going to be based on so many bank accounts and so many chart of accounts that you have to reconcile and stuff. So that business is growing because their accounting processes are also growing, which means your billing is growing. So your success is their success. So the two are symbiotic unit. If that business tanks and you're just like, oh, well, there's another one around the corner. And it's just like, yeah, well, how long does it take? You have to look at your own systems on how much does it cost you to onboard a new client, to find and onboard a new client? How long is that client going to be missing before you replace them? There's a cost involved in that. So if you can have that client retention stay and build so that your billing is increasing with that long-term customer, that's way more beneficial than onboarding new people. Right. So you have to look at it that perspective as well. And that's part of the buy-in process, that no, I need to invest in their success and let them grow so that it takes more staff and more billable hours, flat fee or not, to service that customer.
So true. So true. And exciting when that gets done. I'm curious for you, we've talked a bit about where you are, some of the key things that you're working on. You're digging into AI and how it's helping you. What are some of the things that you're also thinking, gee, this is something I need to work on in my business? Are there any areas that you see that you've got to level up on gaps?
I think for me, and it's just immersing myself in the construction industry, is finding out more, attending more of their functions, being in the forefront of, being a top name when they're talking amongst themselves, because now I'm getting referrals from other construction companies saying you need to go to this bookkeeping company because they really know construction. Having an idea of the suppliers, when you take on a new client, as soon as you open up their books and see who their vendors are, you can automatically save them money based on the fact that you're like, okay, you're dealing with these 5 vendors, but if you move and get your products from these 5, you already know about these other vendors. You know what the cost is. You know how good their work is because they're working for maybe 10, 15 of your other clients. So, you take on a painting company as a new as a new client. Well, now you can refer those paint services to your other clients, right? So you can help their businesses grow. So I think that you really need to immerse yourself into the industry niche that you've chosen. And I really think it's beneficial to immerse yourself in a niche. That was one of the other things that I really took away from the Accelerate program is develop a niche, get really good at one thing and hone your skills in that one thing. And then those people will come. The great thing about that is it ends up being a cookie cutter service because all of the construction industry people, they all need estimates. They all need project management. They all need the same types of suppliers. Their chart of accounts is the same. So you can set them all up the same way, which is so much easier. We actually have a template for construction chart of accounts for taking someone who doesn't even have accounting software, and it just sucks right up into QBO in like 5 minutes. Wow. Well, that helps our, if we don't have to reorganize their bookkeeping and that kind of stuff, that helps us so much that we're pulling the same types of reports and saves us a ton of time. So instead of trying to rework your head and say, okay, well, I've done with construction and now I'm going into retail. Now I'm finished the retail. I'm going into hospitality, bakeries, restaurants. And it's like those industries are just so different that it takes a bit to try and, switch yourself around, set yourself up, figure out that, oh no, I'm in hospitality right now. So now I still have to check, the payment processing server and the payroll and all these other things, inventory, that you don't have to do in construction. So I think that, those efficiency in your business as a bookkeeper by staying in, 1 or 2 industries and really dialing that in is it makes you more of an expert. It makes your bond with your clients so much better because you're speaking the same language as them. You can read the receipts and they may say it's one thing, or they didn't put a note on it at all. And you have to post this. Well, now you know exactly where it's going because, it's a lockup stage and it's a conduit. Well, that pipe is not plumbing. That pipe is electrical. And it's going in the concrete floor. Well, I know that because I deal with construction all the time and I know what stage they're at. If I'm, got myself in 30 different business types, industries, you don't have time to learn their business that well to know that stuff to save them money.
That's right. It's so interesting about the niche and for if you're listening in from the US, the niche, there's so many conversations, pros, cons, all that good stuff. And I've always been a believer in the niche. And I love my story of Janet, my friend, who owned a restaurant and took on this bookkeeper that came in and came back with all these reports saying you're overpaying for tomatoes and your staff is high and you've got lots of spoilage. And she's like, how do you know all this? She goes, because all I do is restaurants. I know exactly how much your numbers should be. And so what it did is it set up a reporting system for her where it's like, these are the benchmarks. And if you're not meeting the benchmarks, then there's something wrong. And it identified exactly where that was wrong. It enabled her to be an absentee owner of a restaurant. How often do you have a profitable restaurant where you're gone for 8-9 months of the year working remotely? She was doing this way pre-COVID. This is like early 2000s that she was doing this. And the model, she owns restaurants all over the world now. I mean, that bookkeeper, how valuable is that person, right? It's because they had the niche. Now, a niche, you can go looking for the niche, but I think a lot of the times the niche finds you, and
Yes.
it's something you like and all that. But it should be something you aspire to because there are those efficiencies. And think about trying to scale. You're trying to scale a business where you need to have a team of people be able to service 20 different industries. That's more challenging, right? Where you've got constructions, your systems, your processes, what you know about it, your expertise, what you can deliver back, your knowledge to your customers. It's way more scalable, and as you've outlined today, and so much more valuable. Like what you get, especially in the construction industry, it's very similar to the restaurant business. Things can go sideways and do go sideways so often, and if you don't have your finger on the finances, you're working for nothing.
Exactly.
And that's not fun for anybody. And I think you can move the needle dramatically in that industry, whether it's any part of the construction industry, quite frankly, because there's niches in the niche, right? There's, landscaping, full on construction to remodeling, like so many parts to that industry that there's just limitless opportunity.
Exactly.
Yeah. Pretty cool stuff. Always love chatting with you. Now, you're, as we've talked in the last 18 months ago, you're also a race car driver, which I think is always, you went from being a pastry owner to bookkeeping, business owner, you're a race car driver. What's going on in the racing world?
There's where AI helps my business because we now have efficiencies in place that I can step away and work remotely and spend some more time because I think I probably race twice as much now as I did in previous years.
Wow.
And as a matter of fact, the last 2 weekends in a row were spent racing, and I literally just came back from a race in the US, and which was absolutely fantastic, and managed to score myself 4. Yep, looking at them now. 4. I have this race wall at my desk here with my trophies and stuff on it. So I managed to score 4 first place last year.
Wow.
Which is amazing. Like one of my car clubs, I'm one of 5 women out of 137 members in that car club.
Wow.
And managed to get general driver of the year out of, there's some stiff competition with some skilled men drivers, and I managed to get driver of the year. So it's one of those, yep, you've made it in the world when
Congratulations.
when you managed to score that one.
Well, congratulations on that. It's fantastic and just lovely. That's the point, is you're a business owner. You've built a business to give you the trappings of what a business should give you: freedom, do things you love to do, financial security, financial freedom, and so you're well on your way, and it's great. It's great for you to come on to the show. I want to thank you for sharing your expertise and your journey. I know you'll be back, and we wish you well in all the things you're working on.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
It is our pleasure. And with that, we wrap another episode of the Successful Bookkeeper Podcast. To learn more about today's wonderful guest and to get access to all sorts of valuable free business building resources, you can go to thesuccessfulbookkeeper.com. Until next time, goodbye.
You've been listening to The Successful Bookkeeper with Michael Palmer. For more information and to download the resources mentioned in this episode, please visit us at thesuccessfulbookkeeper.com. Thank you for listening.